Is the bird? Is it the plane? No, it's my official Superman film review. Today I'm going to talk about the brand new Superman film written and directed by James Gunn himself. So let's get into it. So in the beginning of this film, so in the start or the introduction of the film, you got a little information bomb, I would say, not really, but you get a bit of information about Superman and the Superman universe. So I think it's stated that 3,000 years ago, the first new or brand new meta-humans were introduced. Obviously, then you have something along the lines of 3 centuries ago, a boy was sent from Krypton to Earth. Then I believe like 3 hours ago, the Superman or something, 3 weeks ago or 3 years ago, I'm not quite sure, something like that. But anyway, so little introduction. I think it lasted for like 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever. So yeah, you have the time to process this universe, this brand new universe, and this is obviously the first film. It's an introduction. It's the beginning of a brand new universe, cinematic universe, the DC cinematic universe. I believe. Obviously, this is a brand new start. So, yeah, you had the DCEU with the Justice League and the Henry Cavill Superman. But now we have the David Corenswet Superman. And, dude, I am really proud and really happy that David Corenswet is the new Superman. He's full of optimism, hope, love, respect, and I think that's essential and critical for a Superman and obviously also for a Clark Kent. So there we go. We follow the adventures of Superman, obviously played by David Corenswet, which needs to balance his life, his work job thing with his Superman alter ego, right? Superman and Clark Kent are, I guess, two different persons, and Superman needs to try to balance that out. Obviously, trying to date Lois Lane too in his Clark Kent persona, and also saving the world in his Superman persona. Obviously, this is a well-established Superman, so we don't really need an introduction or a rough start to him. No, he was already Superman when the film began, right? So we also see that in the opening title cards that Superman has been around, has been trying to save people, which is really cool and really nice. So, alright, obviously Superman is from the little town of Smallville, Kansas, and he grew up with Ma and Pa Kent. So, obviously, when he was sent from Krypton to Earth, he was raised by two normal farmers, right? And that's also a really nice inclusion of this film. Like, it is so comic book-ish. It's so like original too. Like, James Gunn is this madman who directed the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker. He knows how to write a good story because he loves comic books, and he knows what comic books are about. He doesn't try to alter things or alter stories or alter characters because the fans of the comic books just like comic books itself. And it was an interesting, thing. This film, for sure, I am going to get one day on DVD, which is a really good thing, or Blu-ray, I suppose, because when the film was finished, I said to my friend who I was with, I said, this is going to be a film I want on Blu-ray because I really want to rewatch it. Obviously, it's a great film, and if you go in to the film, or if you go into the cinema without any like ideas or leaks or rumors that you've heard, just watch it and be surprised, because as a fan myself, it's my hobby, my interests to talk about like films and stuff like that, to deep dive into the world of cinema. And there are a few things that I said, okay, well, maybe this is going to work. And okay, yeah, okay, this appeared in the film, that makes sense. But there were also a few smaller inclusions, smaller cameos, smaller references that was like, holy shit, that's insane. I'm really excited to see that. In a comic book, when you have like different characters into a story, you just don't build up to it, they just show up, right? Like obviously, for example, if you have a Superman comic and suddenly, I don't know, like Supergirl stands there, or maybe Batman stands there, it makes sense because okay, yeah, Superman and Batman, they work together. Supergirl and Superman are cousins, so that makes sense. So little wink, guys, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it's kind of cool that some of those things just happened, and some of the cameos. Obviously, James Gunn also directed the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. Just stay alert for some of those characters because obviously Frank Grillo will be in season 2 of Peacemaker. Obviously, he's playing Rick Flag Sr., and the Suicide Squad introduced his son and killed off his son. So yeah, it makes sense that back and forth about the project is really nice. Although, and I can already say this, Frank Grillo played in the Creature Commandos, but we didn't have any Creature Commandos in this film, which obviously makes sense. But still, we had Frank Grillo connecting those projects, which makes sense. But yeah, I think that's really cool, really nice. Let's talk about the characters up next. Like I already talked about, Superman and Clark Kent needs to balance his work and superhero life. We also have Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnahan, and dude, she's incredible. Holy shit, she doesn't want to be messed with. Like Clark Kent and Lois Lane are the power couple that they are, and I think that's really beautiful. I think that's Rachel Brosnahan and David Corenswet have perfect chemistry, and I think it's important that if you have a good Clark Kent, you needs to have a good Lois Lane, because they're essentially like one big team, right? Lois Lane and Clark Kent, both reporters. One of them being more crucial to their work, like Lois Lane just wants to get the new scoop. Clark Kent is this kind of messy guy. He's kind of nerdy sometimes. But yeah. I mean, he's part of the show, right? That's part of his act, that he needs to act differently than Superman. But Lois Lane and Clark Kent have already been dating in this film. And suddenly, you also see this in the trailer, Lois Lane wants to interview Clark Kent. And that's an interesting scene because obviously Superman and Clark Kent, they can just both interview each other because they're the same person. But Lois Lane wants to interview Superman, and that's where things really got interesting for them. Another thing is, if you have a good Clark Kent slash Superman, a good Lois Lane, you also need a good Lex Luthor. Nicholas Hoult played Lex Luthor like an absolute madman. He was so badass. He was so smart. He's obviously like a tech billionaire, genius guy who's just evil. And in the film, you have multiple, I guess, opinions of him why he doesn't like Superman, and I think those make sense, right? Lex Luthor is this tech billionaire. He's been working his ass off trying to get so many things and projects working, and suddenly there's this alien from Krypton who people love, and Lex Luthor just wants that, I guess, same love. I'm not quite sure. So he delves into the politics, into the economy, and yeah, he tries to stop Superman no matter what. And he analyzes and sees how he can stop Superman at some point. And that's genius. Nicholas Hoult, obviously great actor. But Lex Luthor, I think we never had a Lex Luthor before that was this calculated. Maybe we have, I'm not quite sure, but Lex Luthor is a menace, and obviously I hope we can see obviously the three main characters in this universe again. Obviously Superman, we'll probably see him somehow, some way in the future, in the coming years. We have Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. Obviously, if you have Superman Clark Kent, you need to have Lois Lane, and obviously we need Lex Luthor again. I think they're pretty much setting up another sequel, another movie, right? James Gunn has his little universe, the Gods and Monsters Chapter 1 of the DC universe, you know, planned out. So I know that we might get a sequel to Superman. But it's important for the first. It's a first film, right? It's an introduction. You see things build up. As a comic book fan, you see the Hall of Justice. You say, okay, this is a setup for the Justice League. And if you see maybe Guy Gardner, that's a setup for the Green Lanterns too, right? Hawkgirl, Isabella Merced. Maybe that's a bit of like maybe the story about Hawkman, Hawkgirl, We also have Mr. Terrific. Maybe that can set up the Terrifics. I'm not quite sure, but I'll talk about my bingo card up next too. So I made this bingo card, right? And I wanted to see things before actually looking at some leaks and rumors and what might happen in the Superman film, obviously. So I'll talk about that really quickly. But first of all, I really also want to talk about the background characters, or like the side characters, right? Yeah, the side characters. So we had the three main characters: Superman, Lois Lane, and Lex Luthor. We also had obviously the Justice Gang. That's how obviously Guy Gardner calls them, but it's not, guys. I hope they're just going to tell us like we are the Justice League. Yeah, come on, let's go. Anyway, Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, he's a bit of a prick. He's a bit of a douchebag and dumbass. Sometimes just not a really fun guy. But Nathan Fillion, he's also a great actor, and I think Guy Gardner suits him. Yeah, I think Guy Gardner was just such an asshole sometimes. Like he doesn't really care. I think he's full of himself, and that's funny. So alright, we had Mr. Terrific, played by, oh boy, I can't really. Yeah, I forgot his name. Anyway, Mr. Terrific was a great inclusion to the cast. He's a very smart guy too, but he's not as smart as Lex Luthor, though. He can actually fix and try to hack into different systems. He has an intelligent. I think he's one of the smartest people in life, or I guess in the Superman universe now. So alright, he has his T spheres where he can just throw things at, or he can throw them at his enemies and try to stop them. He had one great scene in the desert, or I guess was it the desert? I'm not quite sure. Like he had this one great scene where he needs to fight off like different enemies, and that was just fantastic, right? We also have Isabella Merced as Hulk Girl. She was an underused character. Like she appeared in the film, she had multiple scenes, but she had like some fighting scenes, some talking scenes, but then that was it. Like they should have just made her a bigger role, right? But anyway, it's okay. Every single character had something to do in this film, which obviously was great. We also have Metamorpho. Metamorpho is a meta-human which can control elements, or he can try to shape his hands or body into different elements. So obviously in the trailer we see him make kryptonite. We see that he has, his I guess his body is full of little metals and minerals and stuff like that, which is a very fascinating little idea there. So alright, let's talk about the bingo card up next. Oh boy, I can't. No, wait. Before we actually talk about the bingo card, I can't forget about the Daily Planet cast. Let's talk about them really quickly. We had Jimmy Olsen, the GOAT, the Rizzler himself, the return of the Rizzler. Guys, Jimmy Olsen is a madman. His Riz is maxed out in this film, and that's insane. That's so funny. I mean, in the comics, you also have like Jimmy Olsen as this quirky guy, this shy guy, but dudes, I think James Gunn really had fun writing that character. We also had obviously the other cast and crew of the Daily Planet. They also had something to do. Obviously Perry White, I think that was that guy with the big smoky cigar, right? That was really cool to see. He was like, okay guys, you have a great story, let's post it. He was just like the boss, right? And he wants to make sure that his people are safe, and when the world was in danger, he made sure that the people of the Daily Planet were safe, and wanted to make sure that his work, his articles were published. So I mean, yeah, made sense. Great guy. All right. We also had this little, I guess, not really talking about Daily Planet anymore. We also had Lex Luthor's girlfriend. I'm not quite sure. Ex-girlfriend. I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. She is just this. I guess. Well, she's a Tutsi guy, a girl, right? She's a Tutsi girl, and she's a bit chic. She's just like, I don't know. It's rather I'm not quite sure. Like she is just this posh girl that likes like Lex Luthor, right? And she also dates Jimmy Olsen because why not, right? Jimmy Olsen, man, he has a chick, a girl, like on every finger, man. It's insane. But alright, we also had the engineer, which was an interesting character, great inclusion. This is obviously setting up the Metal Man, and yeah, it was a really interesting character. She could bend her body into different I guess, mechanical parts. Yeah, it's weird, but it's comic bookish, so it made sense. So, right, let's talk about the bingo card now. Let's go. Alright, guys, so this is the last part of the video. Before actually, watching the film, I made this bingo card. So, things that I thought might, be set up in this film. Little spoilers alert, because these things, some of these things actually happened. Some of these things were very obvious. And if you haven't seen the film, I would just skip to the end, because this bingo card is really interesting. You can find the timestamps in the description, obviously. So if you make sure that you've seen the film, then obviously watch this part, because it's an interesting little thing. So alright, 3, 2, 1, let's show you the bingo card. So, alright, here we have this little piece of paper, right? So this is my bingo card, and I wrote down little things. I also crossed and, noted things, or crossed off things and noted things on the piece of paper here. So let's talk about the Justice League setup. Yes, it happened. We had the Hall of Justice, obviously the Justice Gang, Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, and Superman. I mean, Superman is not really still part of the team, but they're setting up the Justice League, which makes sense. I can't really wait to see how they're going to do that. But alright, the tragic love story between Hawkgirl and Hawkman. It was unfortunate because Hawkgirl didn't really have a lot, of that much screen time. I think she was the most underused character in the film. But hey, she still had some great scenes, not going to lie. But just, she could have been better, I suppose. Maybe she could have had like 1 or 2 more scenes where we really flesh out her character. But alright. Okay, so the Justice Society setup, no, that didn't happen, which, alright, fair enough. We had my Guy Gardner frustrations. Yes, that really happened. Guy Gardner, he's such a prick sometimes, and he just chews on his bubble gum and just thinks about, himself as, the best of the best. And that's just insane. But alright, we had the Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter, appearance or cameo. No, this also didn't happen. But obviously, Lex Luthor called Superman a Martian, which, yeah, okay, that's fair enough, but it's still not Martian Manhunter, nor is it Wonder Woman, right? Alright, the League of Doom setup. Maybe, I'm not quite sure, Lex Luthor has now been sent to Bel Rev, so that's the prison where most of the villains go to. We also have, I believe, yeah, Bel Rev, right? That's also the place where the creature commandos were in, and also all the bad guys of the Suicide Squad, right? So yeah, maybe Lex Luthor might see another villain there, or might meet another villain there, and maybe they'll escape together and make the League of Doom. All right. We had hope. Yes, Superman was full of hope in this film. He was just trying to save the world. We had no Batman cameo, which made sense. The Phantom Zone also didn't appear, although we had a pocket universe. Could I call that the Phantom Zone? Not really. No. This is not the Phantom Zone. That pocket universe or that pocket dimension. It's not the Phantom Zone, nor, where villains actually sent there to be, you're stuck there, right? As a prison. That's not what that mini pocket universe did. Alright, Ultraman is Ultraman. I knew it. Yes, I knew it. Yes, guys, Ultraman was a clone of Superman. And I just knew it. Like, I already thought, okay, maybe they're just going to do that. And they did it. So, James Gunn, you madman, great job. Alright, Ultraman is a clone of Superman in this film. Alright, the Terrifics setup. Maybe, I'm not quite sure, like, that's a question mark, right? Mr. Terrific was great. We also had Metamorpho, so 2 of the 4 are already in this team. We also need Plastic Man and just another woman or another superheroine. But yeah, I think they're just rather setting up the Justice League instead of like the Terrifics. So yeah, okay, that's okay, right? And last but not least, we have Supergirl. Yes, guys, it actually happened. At near the end of the film, we had a little brief scene with Superman and Supergirl, and obviously Crypto the dog was also there, and Crypto the dog is actually Supergirl's dog, which makes sense because, you know, I think the owner and the dog are very familiar with one another and with each other, and they're also similar with one another. So Superman, Clark Kent is calm, and Crypto is very wild. Sometimes he just doesn't listen, and I think that fits more for Supergirl, right? So next year we'll also be seeing Supergirl the film starring Millie Alcock, and that's interesting. That story is going to be great. Matthias Schoenaerts will be in that film too. A Belgian actor, guys. I'm very proud, and because I am myself from Belgium. So yeah, Supergirl, dude, absolutely amazing. I'm really glad that we saw that. But I also wrote down a little two other things. We had a Rick Flag question mark. Yeah, Rick Flag also appeared in the Creature Commandos. Excuse me there. And we also had him in his son in the Suicide Squad. But now he was like, oh damn, meta-humans are bad. But bro, you just literally teamed up with like monsters. Guys, come on. So maybe they'll just touch upon that in the future. We'll need to wait and see. And the last but not least, we have Peacemaker with 2 exclamation points. Yes, Peacemaker also made a little cameo in this film, which was really funny. And John Cena obviously played him. He was like on an interview on the television. Really nice. And yeah, okay, that was great. So, was this film disappointing? No, it was not. Was it a great introduction? Yes, it is. Was it stuffed of like things? Was it stuffed with a lot of different setups? Yes, it's true. But I think the story between Superman and Lois Lane and just the entire story was really important and really interesting. I can't bloody wait to rewatch it because I think this is a great beginning to the DC universe, the DC cinematic universe. And we'll need to see, obviously, when we'll get Supergirl and all the other films, right? We also have a few shows coming our future. So yeah, James Gunn is helming this brand new universe together with Peter Safran, and I think they're going to be, they're going to make the DC universe great again, and that's really nice. I'm really proud of that. So, alright, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this longer review. I had so much to talk about, and I was so excited to see the film. And yeah, shout out to Arthur. Yes, that's one of my friends that went along with me. Oh yeah, by the way, I also got 2 great looking posters. I also hanged them on my wall, so obviously very great. And alright, ladies and gentlemen, I will check you later. Goodbye, everyone. Or should I say, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Superman.
You have a dog?